Welcome back to the Deep Dive. I'm speaking directly to you today, the learner. You know who you are. You're the person who wants to stay incredibly well-informed.
Yeah, the one who wants the full picture without feeling like they're just drowning in that endless, exhausting 24/7 news cycle.
Exactly. And today we have a massive, rapidly unfolding global event to make sense of. It is Sunday, March 1, 2026.
Over the last 48 hours, the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East has just fundamentally shifted.
It really has.
Yeah.
The United States and Israel launched an unprecedented, massive joint military strike on Iran.
The sheer volume of information coming out of the region right now is staggering. We're looking at a situation moving way faster than traditional news desks can even process.
Right, which is why synthesizing these multiple data streams is absolutely essential to understand what's actually happening. So to give you the clearest picture possible, we've pulled from a really wide, diverse stack of sources today.
We are tracking the raw data through a real-time Wikipedia page. It's meticulously logging military assets, confirmed targets, and casualties on the ground.
Plus, we have breaking on-the-ground news reports from The Guardian. And crucially, we're looking at how this is being processed in the media landscape.
Right, the narrative war.
Exactly. We have live transcripts from political YouTube commentary, specifically a prominent left-wing streamer named Vaush running right alongside embedded right-wing media broadcasts like Fox News.
It's a lot to process.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
But before we get into the timeline, we really need to set a hard ground rule for this deep dive.
Absolutely.
Our sources contain highly charged, deeply polarized political commentary from both the left and the right. Our mission today is strictly to impartially report the facts and the perspectives exactly as they're found in these materials.
Right, we are not here to endorse any specific viewpoint.
And we are absolutely not taking sides. We are simply laying out the information to help you understand what is being said and what is actually happening.
Viewing these events from multiple angles without letting the intense rhetoric obscure the physical reality on the ground, that's the only way to genuinely grasp the scale of what we're watching unfold.
Totally. So let's start with that physical reality. In the early hours of Saturday, February 28, the U.S. and Israel launched their operations.
The U.S. codenamed their end of it Operation Epic Fury, while Israel operated under the names Roaring Lion and Operation Genesis.
Right, and the scale of this initial wave is just, it's difficult to wrap your head around. We're talking about over 200 Israeli fighter jets targeting 500 different locations simultaneously.
500. It's massive. Israel stated they dropped over 1,200 bombs in just the first 24 hours alone.
And the United States was heavily involved in that initial kinetic action, right?
They were. They utilized B-2 stealth bombers for deep penetration strikes. They launched waves of Tomahawk cruise missiles from offshore warships, and they brought in HIMARS.
Wait, HIMARS? Those are the highly mobile artillery rocket systems that completely changed the battlefield dynamics in Ukraine a few years ago.
Exactly those. Seeing them deployed in this theater indicates a very specific type of tactical targeting. But, to understand why these weapons are firing right now, we have to look at the buildup.
Yeah. How did we get to Saturday morning?
Well, this military action is the culmination of months of intense pressure. Throughout late 2025 and early 2026, Iran was rocked by massive nationwide anti-government protests.
Right, driven largely by that crippling economic crisis.
Yes. And the Iranian government responded with severe crackdowns and massacres against their own citizens. Concurrently, you had these indirect high-stakes nuclear negotiations happening in Oman between the U.S. and Iran.
Which makes the timing so wild because just days before the first bombs fell, Omani mediators were publicly claiming a diplomatic breakthrough was within reach.
Right. But while those diplomatic back channels were supposedly open, the U.S. was simultaneously orchestrating the largest military buildup in the Middle East since the 2003 invasion of Iraq. Right. Ultimately, citing intelligence about imminent threats and a reviving Iranian nuclear program, President Trump authorized the strike.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because woven right into the middle of this massive historic military deployment is one of the most bizarre technology subplots you'll ever hear.
It really is surreal.
According to a detailed report from The Guardian, the U.S. military has been using an artificial intelligence model, specifically Anthropic's AI, known as Claude, for highly complex target selection and running battlefield simulations for these very strikes.
What's fascinating here is the collision between Silicon Valley ideology and Pentagon reality, because just hours before these massive strikes on Iran began, President Trump publicly ordered all federal agencies to immediately ban Claude.
He literally took to Truth Social, calling Anthropic a radical left AI company.
Right.
And the backstory to that ban feels like something out of a cyberpunk novel. Anthropic apparently objected to the U.S. military using their AI in a previous separate raid in Venezuela earlier in the year.
Yeah, they formally cited their corporate terms of service.
Right, which strictly prohibit their technology from being used for violence, developing weapons, or conducting surveillance. You literally have a tech company trying to enforce its end-user agreement on the United States military during an active geopolitical crisis.
It perfectly illustrates the unprecedented complexity of modern warfare. I mean, commercial AI systems have become instantly intertwined with global military operations, and the friction is just palpable.
How did the Pentagon react?
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth responded to Anthropic's objections furiously. He accused the company of arrogance and betrayal and demanded a 6-month transition period to move military operations over to what he called a more patriotic service.
And he specifically named OpenAI as that patriotic alternative,
Right.
noting they apparently agreed to allow the Pentagon to use their tools in classified networks.
It highlights this incredible unresolved tension between the terms of service drafted in a California boardroom and the immediate tactical objectives of the Pentagon. The military relies on commercial tech, but those companies often have ethical guidelines that explicitly forbid military applications.
It's like trying to fight a war while simultaneously arguing with customer service over a software license violation.
That's exactly what it's like.
But, while the tech paradox is surreal, the human and geopolitical toll of Operation Epic Fury is devastatingly real. Let's look at the targets on the ground.
The strikes hit the heavily fortified Pasteur district in Tehran.
Mhm.
And they weren't just going after nuclear infrastructure or weapons depots.
No, they went straight for the absolute top of the chain of command.
The reports confirm massive, unprecedented assassinations. The supreme leader of Iran, Ali Khamenei, who was 86 years old, was killed, and his compound was completely destroyed.
And former President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad was also killed in his home.
Right. The strikes systematically wiped out numerous top Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps commanders and defense officials.
Just to give you some context on the IRGC, they aren't just a military branch. They are a massive paramilitary and economic force that controls vast sectors of the Iranian economy and state apparatus.
Taking out their leadership is a monumental shift. Among the casualties were highly influential figures like Ali Shamkhani and the Minister of Defense, Aziz Nasirzadeh.
President Trump later claimed that 48 leaders are gone in one shot.
An entire echelon of leadership wiped out overnight. But we really need to look at the underlying strategy of a decapitation strike like this.
Right. What were they hoping to achieve?
The explicit goal the strategic gamble Israel and the U.S. were making was that abruptly removing the head of the regime would spark a massive civilian uprising. The hope was for the Iranian people to leverage the chaos and topple the remainder of the government.
And the immediate result on the ground seems incredibly chaotic. According to the Wikipedia tracking page and field reports, some Iranians did pour into the streets to celebrate Khamenei's death.
Yeah, and they did this defying a near-total internet blackout and facing security forces who reportedly opened fire on the crowds.
But history consistently shows us that taking out a figurehead, even several top leaders simultaneously, doesn't instantly dismantle a deeply entrenched massive apparatus like the IRGC.
Exactly. The bureaucracy of power often survives the individuals who run it. The assumption that a targeted strike automatically equals democratic revolution is a massive leap.
And while the military narrative from the U.S. and Israel heavily focuses on these high-value targets and surgical precision, the reality for the people living there is horrific.
We have to look at the civilian cost.
Yes. Our sources detail a devastating strike on a girls' elementary school in Manab in southern Iran. According to Iranian state media, 148 people, many of them young students, were killed, and 95 were wounded.
It stands as the worst mass casualty event of the bombing campaign so far. It serves as a stark reminder of the tragic realities of warfare, regardless of the precision of the weapons used.
And we must also look at the strategic fallout. Because Iran did not simply absorb this blow.
No, they initiated a significant retaliation.
Iran launched waves of drones and ballistic missiles. They fired directly at Israel, managing to breach the air defense systems and hit a synagogue in Beit Shemesh, killing 9 people and injuring dozens more.
And the retaliation was not contained to Israel. They targeted U.S. bases across the entire Persian Gulf theater, turning this into a massive regional conflict instantly.
They hit the U.S. Fifth Fleet headquarters in Bahrain, the Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, and they even targeted civilian airports in Dubai and Kuwait.
The human toll on the U.S. side currently includes 3 American service members killed and 5 seriously injured.
And the ripple effects extended immediately into the global economy. The IRGC moved swiftly to close the Strait of Hormuz.
Which is essentially the jugular vein for global energy supplies.
Right, and the numbers reflect that instantly. 150 freight ships and oil tankers were stalled in the water. Global energy markets and international supply chains were thrown into chaos overnight.
You have a regional war that has instantly become a global economic crisis.
Which brings us to the domestic political war of words back here in the United States. How are people interpreting the motives for this massive escalation?
Well, officially, President Trump's justification for the war focused strictly on national security. He cited the need to stop Iran's nuclear program and their funding for terror proxies like Hamas and the Houthis.
Right.
And he framed the strikes as a long overdue response to decades of hostility, explicitly referencing the 1979 hostage crisis, as well as recent attacks on U.S. troops in the region.
But there's a very different, highly controversial narrative floating around, straight from the president's own social media. The Guardian highlighted a post Trump made on Truth Social right as the invasion began.
Yeah, this part is wild.
In it, he linked the military action directly to his own personal political grievances.
Yeah.
He claimed that Iran interfered in both the 2020 and 2024 elections, specifically to stop Trump.
Introducing personal political grievances into the justification for a major war creates a deeply polarizing element. Yet, despite that dual narrative, if we look at the political response in Washington, there is a surprising amount of bipartisan support for the core military action itself.
Yeah, mainstream Democrats have largely aligned with the strikes. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, and California Governor Gavin Newsom all released statements supporting the necessity of stopping a nuclear-armed Iran.
Right. Their primary criticism of Trump wasn't the bombing campaign itself, but rather the procedural issue of not consulting Congress before launching the jets.
You also see strong vocal support from Republicans like Vice President J.D. Vance and from Democrats like Senator John Fetterman.
But the political landscape is not unanimous.
Definitely not.
There is sharp dissent from politicians like Representative Zoran Mamdani, who outright called it an illegal war of aggression and argued forcefully that the American people do not want a new war in the Middle East.
That domestic divide, Mamdani calling it an illegal war, while Vance and Fetterman champion as, is exactly what we're seeing play out in the media landscape.
Let's look at the left-wing perspective first, through the lens of the YouTube streamer Vaush.
In his live coverage, he heavily criticized the military-industrial complex and what he called Zionist influence over U.S. foreign policy.
His framing was highly critical of the underlying motives. He argued that Israel's objective is infinite war and territorial expansionism, and he portrayed the United States as essentially acting as a puppet to those foreign interests.
He also forcefully argued that these decapitation strikes will absolutely not bring democracy to Iran. He spent a significant amount of time pointing out the hypocrisy of politicians who are ignoring the will of the American public, citing polling that suggests everyday citizens largely do not want to be entangled in another Middle Eastern war.
Now, contrast that entirely with the right-wing perspective, as seen in the Fox News broadcasts embedded in our source materials. Their coverage portrayed the strikes as an unmitigated historical success.
They framed it as the ultimate realization of peace through strength. The broadcasts emphasized the tactical precision of the strikes, the massive, overwhelming scale of the operation, and openly celebrated the eradication of what they termed evil leadership.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it reminds us that in modern warfare, the battle over the narrative at home is fought just as fiercely and with just as much strategy as the physical war abroad.
Absolutely.
Depending on where you tune in, a YouTube stream or a cable news network, different audiences are being fed entirely different realities about what this conflict actually means, who is benefiting, and what the moral implications are.
So what does this all mean? We have massive military strikes, dead national leaders, closed global shipping lanes, a deeply divided public, and then A complete whiplash developed.
Oh yeah, the latest pivot.
Fast forward to Sunday, March 1st, the very day we are recording this. After launching Operation Epic Fury, after openly declaring the goal of regime change, and after explicitly urging the Iranian people to overthrow their government, President Trump suddenly announces in an interview with The Atlantic that the Iranian leadership has agreed to talks.
It highlights the sheer, almost dizzying unpredictability of the situation. Remember the timeline? The U.S. struck right before scheduled nuclear talks were supposed to happen in Geneva.
Right.
Trump stated to the reporter that the Iranians played too cute and waited too long to make a deal. But now that he's authorized a strike that took out their top leaders, he is suddenly willing to sit down and negotiate with whoever is left in charge.
It's whiplash.
This raises an important question. How do you practically negotiate a peace treaty under these conditions? Ask yourself to consider the reality on the ground right now.
The Strait of Hormuz is closed, stalling the global economy. A girls' elementary school is in rubble. U.S. military bases are currently under active ballistic missile fire. And the nation's supreme leader, a figure of massive religious and political authority, has just been assassinated.
Engaging in diplomatic talks in the middle of that level of active kinetic chaos is almost unprecedented in modern geopolitics.
It feels like we are watching a decade of geopolitical history unfold in a single weekend. So let's pull all these threads together for you.
Good idea.
In just 48 hours, we have witnessed the largest combat sortie in Israeli military history. We've seen the targeted assassination of a head of state and his top generals.
We've seen the closure of a vital global shipping lane that impacts everything from the price of gas to global trade.
We're watching a fierce domestic political battle unfold over the very narrative of why this war is happening. And incredibly, all of this is occurring while the U.S. military is actively arguing with an AI company over its terms of service.
It is a profound demonstration of how rapidly our world can change and how deeply interconnected commercial technology, domestic politics, and global military force have become.
Which brings me to a final thought I want to leave you with today, something to mull over on your own as you process all of this information. We spent a lot of time talking about the human leaders today, Trump, Khamenei, the politicians, the generals. But think about that AI subplot.
Right.
If the physical weapons of modern war, the target selection, the complex battlefield simulations are now directed by artificial intelligence algorithms that can be banned or swapped out by politicians overnight based purely on ideological disputes over terms of service, who or what is actually making the life or death decisions in the wars of tomorrow?
That is a chilling but absolutely necessary question for the future.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. The news moves fast, but taking the time to truly understand it is how you stay grounded. Keep asking questions, keep challenging the narrative, and keep looking beyond the headlines. We'll catch you next time.